Alright, so we're just gonna start in child's pose. Staying here for a moment, just focusing on our deep breaths in and out, the diaphragmatic breath. And then we're gonna slowly come out of this and just roll up one vertebrae at a time into a strong mountain pose with our shoulders down and back, our legs planted firmly into the ground. We're gonna come up into prayer and down into forward fold, come up halfway to monkey. Back into forward fold, and we're going to step back into plank. From here, we're going to go into our downward facing dog, come back into plank, and slowly lower down into chaturanga, through into cobra. From here, we're going to come back into that downward facing dog. We're going to walk our feet up and come halfway into monkey, reverse swan dive into prayer, swan dive into chair pose, and reverse swan dive back up into prayer. We're going to go back into forward fold, halfway up to monkey. Forward fold, step back into our plank. From here, we're going to go to downward dog, back into our plank, and then we're going to step our right leg forward into runner's lunge, shoulders down and back. Sweep those hands down, back into plank, and downward facing dog. Back into our plank once more. Slowly lower in through cobra. And we're going to come back into downward facing dog. Walk those legs up, halfway up into monkey. Reverse swan dive into prayer. Come through to chair pose and come back up into prayer. We're going to swan dive into forward fold, halfway up to monkey, forward fold, and step back into plank. From here, we'll go to downward facing dog, back to plank, and we'll step our left leg into a strong runner's lunge, hips square, waterfall the arms down into plank. Downward facing dog, back into plank, slowly lower, controlled, up through into cobra. We'll push back into downward facing dog, walk our legs up halfway into monkey. Up into prayer, sweep through to chair pose, and back into prayer. We'll waterfall into forward fold, halfway up to monkey, back down, and into plank once again. From here, we'll go to downward facing dog, into our plank, and this time step into a crescent lunge with that back leg strong and flexed. Waterfall the hands down, back into plank, slowly lower down, up in through cobra. From here, we'll push back into downward facing dog, walk those feet up, halfway up into monkey, reverse swan dive into prayer, sweep through to chair pose, and reverse swan dive into prayer once more. We'll swan dive into forward fold, halfway up to monkey, forward fold, and step back into plank. Downward facing dog, up into plank, and our left leg through to that crescent lunge, back leg strong. Waterfall the hands down into plank, slowly lower in through cobra, up into downward facing dog. Walk those feet up one more time, halfway up to monkey, up into prayer, sweep into chair, back up into prayer, and we'll go back into a strong mountain pose just to end off our sun salutation.
Starting in mountain, we are going to go back into warrior one. Left foot, heel should be on the ground, forward leg bent and arms up to the sky right beside the ears, making sure that your shoulders are down. Then we are going to go into triangle, making sure legs are straight, back is flat, and placing your hands wherever feels comfortable for you today. You should be feeling this in the back of your hamstrings. Then going to move up and into our flow series, up to prayer, forward fold, down into plank, and downward dog. Making sure that the head is in line with the spine, and we are feeling this all through the legs and the back. Trying to touch the heels to the ground. Back into plank, legs up, monkey with flat back, and we're going to move on to warrior one on the left leg. So again, right leg back, heel to the ground, arms facing up to the sky, palms facing each other, shoulders down. Making sure hips are facing forward. Now we're going to go into triangle. Again, flat back, breathing in and out slowly. Hands placed wherever feels comfortable for you today. Should be feeling this in the gluteal muscles and the hamstrings. Up now into our flow series, hands up to prayer, down to forward fold, back into plank, and again downward dog. Feeling that stretch throughout the legs, arms, back, making sure we're breathing. Head in line with the spine, back into plank, feet up. We're going to go into warrior 3 pose. Make sure you have balance on your right side. I'm going to stick our leg back, straight back, heel flexed, and our arms can come out to the sides or out in front of us for a little bit more of a challenge, increasing the lever arm, or down by our sides, wherever feels comfortable. I'm going to slowly bring it up and into our flow series. Forward fold, plank, and downward dog. Again, just giving this time to breathe in and out comfortably. Back to plank, up to try, back up into monkey, and again, going into warrior 3 on our left leg. Again, bringing that leg up as high as possible, foot flexed, arms again can come out to the side or out in front of us if we feel comfortable. Working on our balance and our posture, making sure we have a flat back. And up again, one more flow series up to prayer, forward fold, down into plank, and downward dog. Back into plank, feet together, monkey with the flat back, and into mountain.
Reach arms overhead and fold into forwards fold. Step your right foot back so it is parallel with the back of the mat, and reach arms strong and lunge into your left leg for warrior 2. Hold this pose for 5 breaths. Now reach your right arm high and place left forearm on left thigh for a side angle pose. Straighten your front knee and reach arms alongside for triangle. Now lunge back into warrior 2 and step up to the front of the mat for forwards fold. Step back into plank and now push back into downward dog. Step back up to the front of your mat and forward fold. Now step back with the opposite foot and lunge into warrior 2 again. Hold this for 5 breaths. And now reach left arm high for a side angle. Straighten out and reach into triangle. Lunge back into warrior 2 and step back to the front of the mat. Forward fold, reach high, and back to mountain pose.
Come to the front of your mat, establishing a strong mountain pose. You should feel equal weight through your feet, and your shoulders should be square and retracted. Try and relax. Inhale and exhale deeply through your nose. As we prepare for tree pose, place all your weight onto one leg and bring the other one out to the side, placing it on our shin and moving our arms to heart center. You can also bring your leg to your upper thigh or above your knee. Your hands can go into prayer or out at your sides. Repeat on the opposite leg, trying to replicate it in the same way you did the first leg. Ensure that your loading leg is soft in the knee. Listen to your body and understand that it's okay if we can't do the pose exactly the same on both legs. Now as we come out of the pose and center ourselves, we're going to prepare for eagle pose, placing all our weight onto one leg again. Bring your other leg out and cross it above your knee. Bring your arms out and then cross them one over the other and bend them. Try and sink a little deeper into the stretch and take a few breaths. It's important to keep the knee of the loading leg soft as to avoid hyperextension. Repeat the pose on the opposite leg, ensuring that you switch the position of your crossed arms as well. As for foot position, you can choose to wrap it around the back of your opposite leg, place your toe on the floor for extra balance, or to leave it hanging in the air. Now come out of the pose and lower yourself into child's pose for a few breaths. As we prepare for crow's pose, move up into a crouched position with your hands firmly on the floor. Come up onto your toes and place your knees on your triceps, ensuring your elbows are bent. Slowly putting more and more weight into your hands, lift your feet off the floor and try to keep your balance for a few breaths. If you have any wrist injuries, come out of the stretch to give them a break and reposition yourself when you're ready. If you wish to challenge yourself a bit more, try crane pose, where your elbows are straight rather than bent. Now stand back up as we prepare for Birds of Paradise stretch. Place your weight on one foot again and open your opposite hip while raising your foot off the floor, creating a right angle with your knee. Place your hand firmly against your thigh to give your hip a bit more of a stretch. Take a few deep breaths here. Now come out of the stretch and perform the same pose on the opposite foot. If you want more of a stretch, you can either straighten your leg, grab your toe, or do both. Now center yourself once again, preparing for dancer's pose. Put all your weight into one foot and grab the inside of the opposite angle. Slowly extend your leg while pulling on your ankle as hard or soft as you want, depending on the stretch your quadriceps require. Keep your opposite arm extended to help with balance. Make sure that you listen to your body and don't push your body past any painful feeling. Perform the pose with the opposite leg and pull. Remember, the focus is on stretching the quadriceps, not bending forward. Any forward bend shouldn't be forced, but should be a natural movement. Now release and come back into a strong mountain pose.
Standing into Tadasana, also known as mountain pose, we're going to plant our feet into our mat. Now we're going to start hinging from our hips. Try to get our hands to touch the ground or to get the greatest stretch. Here we're going to hang in ragdoll. Breathe in and out. Now coming back up, we're gonna get in our seated pose. Get a good stretch, arms up, maintain our breathing. Make sure if your shins hurt or your knees hurt, don't go as deep. From here, back up. We're gonna lower onto the ground into butterfly. Make sure to maintain our breathing. We're gonna lean to the right for a few breaths here. And to the left. And again, we're gonna hinge from our hips. Try to get as low to the floor as possible, or until we feel a good stretch. Try to keep our backs upright and straight. And from here, we're gonna get into all fours, our tabletop position. We wanna make sure that our shoulders are directly over our wrists and that our knees are in line with our hips. And from here, we're gonna do our cats and cows. First, starting out with the cow. Our head is the last thing to go up and our tailbone is the first. Now back into cat. Make sure we're breathing in and out. In, out, in, out. Now we're gonna lie with our tummies on the floor. Now we're gonna get into scuba. So here what our goal is to keep the smallest portion of our body actually on the ground. Lifting up, breathe in, and out. In, out. In, out, in, and out. So from here, we're gonna get into our child's pose, and we're gonna take a few deep breaths here. Make sure we're moving to the right. Get a nice big stretch. And to the left. We're gonna lie back onto our backs. We're gonna bring our knees right to our chest, either on your shins or on your thighs, whatever's more comfortable. And we're gonna lean to the left and to the right, just massaging our lower back. Now we're gonna keep our right knee up and our left knee planted right into the floor. Gonna move our right knee, and we're gonna look to the side. And we'll be here for a few breaths, in and out. Now let's switch legs. Bring the left up, right leg planted. Extend the left and look to the side, breathing in and out. Laying in Shavasana now. We're going to close our eyes while still maintaining our breathing, and we're going to relax. Forget about your stresses. Loosen your muscles. Loosen the muscles in your face, your eyes, your arms, your whole body. Now we're going to stay here for a few breaths, and we're going to thank our body for what we were able to do today. As we slowly start to awaken our body, take your time, do everything on your own time. We're just going to get rid of the cricks and cracks in our ankles and then our wrists. Just turning gently. And when you're ready, we're going to get up into a seated position, again on your own time. Cross our legs. A few breaths here. We're going to bring our arms into heart center, and we're going to thank ourselves for what we were capable of doing today, and thank you for joining us today. Namaste.